Welcome to Realignment Day 2016. A few surprises with Ryder and Old High. We'll jump right into it. District 55A, keeping the same number, but getting some new teams. Saginaw schools are no longer with us. Some old school before you got here. That Sherman and Denison used to be the rivals for Ryder and Old High, and they're back.
I remember I was going to MSU and then doing some radio stuff here whenever Sherman and Denison were in it. And it's a 7-team district now. That's what really kind of threw these coaches off. They went in looking for an 8-team district.
Right. Lake Dallas went all the way from not being in District 5, probably was almost in District 5 when they were drawing it.
Yeah.
They're in District 14.
Yeah, they're at the Carrollton schools. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I would have thought if they were going to be with the Denton schools, they would for sure be Lake Dallas.
One of those three, if it wasn't Lake Dallas, then you thought it'd be the Colony, or you thought it might be Prosper. And they're all in 14-5A.
This still made more sense than I'd seen some predictions that had, like, Lake Dallas staying with Wichita and Ryder, but Denton schools going somewhere else. Like they'd have to drive through Corinth on their way to their district game. So that didn't make sense. There was a lot of speculation that we might get Justin Northwest.
And a lot of people, thought that the Wichita Falls schools and the Justin Northwest schools would be linked together regardless of where they went. That wasn't the case. Coach Hafley, Scott Hafley, he called it. I talked to him on Saturday. He says, I think we're going with Denison and Sherman. I just don't know who else we're going to be linked in with. It'd be Denton, Denison, and Sherman. He wasn't sure who the 8th was. Thought it would be Lake Dallas, but he nailed it. He was right on top with it.
Yeah, we hate to admit it, but the WFSD,
that's right.
He's pretty sharp.
He's
been around a little while.
Yeah.
So
obviously, Denton Ryan's got to be the favorite of this district. They're 6A team who went 4 rounds deep. After that, though, I mean, Sherman, I think when they were with us before,
was 0-10 last year on the field.
They were when they were with us before, they were 8-2, real competitive, and they've been kind of down. So I mean, I kind of see after Denton Ryan, it seems like it's a reasonably open district. We don't know how good Braswell is going to be. Probably
the unknown.
Probably going to be a little. It takes a couple years for a program to really hit stride.
But it also, what Braswell does is it makes it a little bit unknown of what they gained from Ryan and Denton, because those are the two schools that Braswell, the new school in Denton, it's on the east side of Denton. They're taken away from Ryan and Denton. So how does that affect them? What athletes did it take away from Denton High and from Ryan? And then you throw in Denison. Denison's been a pretty solid team. They're usually solid year after year. I think they're going to be right there in the mix right after Ryan. I think you look at Denton, Ryder, Old High, and Denison as maybe 4 teams right there kind of battling second through 5th.
Denison was 5-5 last year.
Yeah.
I looked at what their power rating on Pigskin Prep would have had them 4th in our district ahead of Brewer if they'd been there. So, they're not a power, but they fit right in.
They fit there, yeah.
And that was going to, they've scrimmaged Ryder. Ryder's still familiar with them.
What they lost, too, though, with this district, Ryder lost a game at Cowboy Stadium with Denison for week 3. That was set. That was going to happen. And then when Denison's thrown in the district, that no more week 3 Cowboy Stadium.
Denton Ryan, last we saw them in this classification, which was then 4A, I think they went 39-4 over 3 years. Had Mario Edwards and a bunch of D1 players.
Good team, good program.
So they've changed some, but they're still going to be salty.
Well, one interesting thing I think from the Ryder Old High perspective is the neighboring district is those Saginaw schools, those Justin schools. Also, a little team that we've heard about, Aledo.
Yeah.
And Aledo's
they struggle though. They're not.
Yeah,
they're
right. Yeah. Well, Aledo's been Division II. They're guaranteed to be Division II.
They're the smallest school in that district.
And Old High will be Division II if they make the playoffs, and Ryder most likely will be Division II.
Ryder's right in the middle. It could go either way. I mean, you would think they would because of the 3 schools that are ahead.
Old
of them,
High is. We're talking about population. Old High's the smallest, and Denison's the next smallest, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. Denison's the next smallest, and then Braswell's right there. Ryder's right there, and right in the middle. They're 4th smallest.
So before we've had teams like, we might get Aledo second round. We'll see. Now it's like we're probably getting Aledo first round.
That's right. If you do not get the number 1 seed out of this district for Division II, you're probably seeing Aledo in the first round.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
It makes it that much more important. And even whenever they're not facing Aledo, I mean, we've spent the last 2 years speculating, well, which way's Aledo going? Are they going D1 or
now
D2?
You know.
When are you going to see Aledo?
You know all
now
where they're sitting.
Yeah. So you know what you want to avoid. You want to avoid being number 2 in Division II.
We used to care about those OD Wyatt Fort Worth games like week 8. If Wyatt
wins, the school population first to see which one's going to win.
Yeah, exactly. So
South Hills.
Yeah, South Hills wins the night. Ryder's going to get Aledo and stuff.
Your buddy Coach Avanchan's watching this and say, "Oh, our guys are already discounting Boswell."
Yeah, and he didn't want to see us so bad. He pulled out of that week 3 game.
He did. Yeah, non-district
schedule. Thought they was going to play the Coyotes and at least had to get to buggy one week.
That's right. Non-district schedule. We thought Old High was going to have Boswell week 3, and that game's not happening anymore. That Boswell pulled out late in that one. In fact, I think Coach Russell was almost all the way back to Wichita Falls whenever he got the news that they're not playing them anymore. They haven't filled that spot. So
if you're watching this,
Old High needs a
Old
week
High's
3
looking
opponent.
for a week 3 game. If you're watching this, and you got a week 3 opening.
The other WFISD team, Hershey, got some interesting news too, and
not great
didn't
news.
make it easier.
No, not great news.
To
It's
me, I
similar.
almost compare this to City View and Holiday and Henrietta drawing the Eastland Cisco.
Yeah.
Because they all of a sudden pulled in Sanger that won 10 games.
Right.
And then Argyle, which has played 48 games the last 3 years.
I think the district is somewhat similar to what they've had though, because the last few years you've had that overpowering favorite in Graham,
Right, which
and
was
you're just
a
kind of
state
replacing that. And I'm not
semifinalist,
saying Graham's probably slipping off. I mean they're dropping down a classification or a division, but it's the kind of the same thing. I mean you still have that overwhelming favorite at the top, and you got a bunch of other people that are trying to catch up to them. So I think the district kind of lays out in a similar fashion.
Honestly, and I mean, it's just conjecture now, but I really think you're looking at the same 3 teams, Burke, Hershey, and Gainesville, fighting for that 4th playoff spot just like last year. I mean, I think Argyle's first. Decatur's got some good players coming back, and they got a good coach, and they won, they won that district last year. And then, Sanger's a solid program. I would say Sanger's kind of comparable to what Mira Wells was kind of on the rise.
Exactly. I think
And
those
so
two are real similar.
I think Graham and Graham next year compared to Argyle next year is a big gap.
Yeah.
Hershey's got Graham on the schedule, and that could end up being a decent game. Graham's losing some good players. I don't think they're quite at state semifinal Division I level like they have been.
No.
But Argyle is going to be obviously the favorite of that
But
district.
it's where Graham had been
Yeah.
beforehand, so
Yeah.
it does make the district comparable.
There were
to what
years
they're
that it
seeing.
felt like
Yeah.
Graham was 4 touchdowns better than everybody.
Exactly, and we've covered some great Graham Argyle games in the last couple of years, so it's a team that they're going to. I mean, like I said, it's a very similar team to what they've had as far as competitiveness.
The other 4A district I'm kind of excited about, and it's a 5-team district. I always think 5-team district's kind of a pain. Got that week 6 game you have to worry about, and then a random bye. But Graham joins IP Vernon. The big news for Hawks and Lions were they aren't going west. So that was something
no
they were.
4-hour district trips.
Yeah, no
now.
4-hour district
That
trips.
helps a little bit. And what while we're mentioning the Hershey Burke district, it's different for basketball.
It is.
Graham's coming back for basketball, so we'll go from a 4-team to a 5-team. I talked to Coach Hedge and Coach Nixon. Normally coaches hate 5-team districts, but after playing with 4, they were both glad for 5. They'd rather have 6. I thought that UIL, to me, that was really strange. Coach Nix pointed out the District 6 in basketball has 5 teams. District 7 has 7 teams, and Mineral Wells is
Right
it would
between
look like
there,
that would
yeah.
have been a perfect marriage to have 6 in each of them. A lot less headaches for coaches. All 12 of those coaches have less headaches if UIL could have just put Mineral Wells with us.
Yeah, you never know it. I don't envy the UIL for the job they have to do, though. There's a lot of pins on, on that map trying to figure out who goes with
Sometimes
who.
there are end breaks and they forget where those
That's
were,
right,
though.
Yeah, they do.
But I think, if you look at that Our Park Graham football district, Graham's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I think Vernon's going to be on the rebound. They had kind of a disappointing year this year.
Some
but
good backs back.
Yeah,
on
they
that
got some
team.
good players
Yeah.
back. Crum went 4 deep last year. They knocked IP out of the
That's
playoffs,
right,
and
yeah.
I'm not sure if that was a senior load class or if they got a lot of good
They
players
seemed like
back.
they were late bloomers too. I mean, it seemed like they got a little stronger as they got into the
Yeah.
playoffs. I mean, because that was a team we thought Iowa Park could beat them.
Yeah.
And they kind of, I know they had a good regular season, but when they got to the playoffs, they really started to roll. So
And Bridgeport's usually pretty good. Well, this year they
Yeah.
had some injuries. They faded down the stretch. But Bridgeport's, I don't know what they have coming back next year, but that's a solid program. The interesting thing, too, about this region is no Salina. So you don't have Salina. The teams next to you in the district next to you don't look very imposing. Teams like Venus and Godley. I think if you win this district, if you're Vernon, IP, or Graham, you would be considered maybe a regional favorite. You got Sweetwater on the other side. A couple teams, but this isn't just the strongest region.
Then
I
you
think,
go
out
way
there.
out west for your second round.
Yeah, I don't think this is the strongest. With Salina, before it was Salina's going to win the region, and you don't have that now. And I think even that Salina quarterback that got hurt in the title game,
Yeah,
I think he was coming back.
Yeah.
So, I think those, not only did they dodge those West Texas teams, they're also dodging Salina in the region, and that's a big win for them.
you said it all.
Yeah.
You said it all.
Also, another big winner today, our Area 3A Division II schools.
That's right.
Cisco and Eastland are gone.
Yeah, getting them out of there is going to make things a lot. And plus, I mean, it confines it a little bit more. They don't have that long travel down to the Cisco and Eastland because those two teams are kind of out of the way. Other than that, though, it didn't really change the district. It was just got rid of those two teams, right?
Yeah, same 16.
Were there a lot of tears out at Region 9 from the coaches?
I might have seen some celebrate, some high fives or some handshakes,
some fist pumps.
Coach Johnson, Frank Johnson at Holiday, when he was at Colorado City, he was with Cisco. So this is his first realignment.
They were following him
in
around.
about 3 or 4. Yeah, this was his first time. So he was
he kind of came to up here to avoid Cisco, to get away from Cisco.
When he saw a shadow around the corner, he thought it was Cisco again.
Yeah. So. And they moved Region 2 as well, which with Canadian, Idalou, some of those teams in Region 1. I don't know if Region 2 still has some tough teams. You have Gunner and, Whiteright's been good some of those years. So you might have some tough games, in playoff. But
it's not Region 1.
It's not Region 1, which has been traditionally pretty good. So I think, if you're like a team like Jacksboro or Holiday, before you were thinking maybe we can just make the playoffs. I mean, realistically, you're like, okay, well, Henrietta's going to be good. Eastland and Cisco are going to be good. Maybe we can get in the playoffs. Now you think maybe we can win district, I mean.
Especially for an up-and-coming team like Jacksboro was.
Yeah, Henrietta's going to be good, but they're going to drop off some, losing a lot of great players. And so Jacksboro, Holiday, those type teams are thinking, well, let's see if we can make a run at this thing. And then our 2A districts, I think some of those got easier as well. Seymour, Olney, and Windthorst don't have those Abilene schools anymore. Yeah,
to lose the Hollies and the Stanfords, that's right.
Yeah,
to not have those to mess with anymore. But you kind of like that too.
I do like that.
Yeah, I'm going to miss like a Stanford Windthorst game. That's one you can kind of look forward to because those are two programs that kind of established and some history there. But at the same time, if you're a coach, you want that district slate that can set you up for a nice position in the playoffs and to try to make that deep run.
Yeah, I mean realistically, in that district with Alvord and Chico coming in. Windthorst Seymour looks like the big game in that district,
right,
and after that, I don't even know. Olney, if you're looking at Olney's playoff chances, they've got to win a game now. They won a game last year in district. If they win a game this year, they might be going to the playoffs.
They can up that win total by one more.
Yeah, they're good to go.
It's there.
So, one thing, Quanah hasn't been in this area in a long time in football. It seems like they're always going out west. A couple of realignments they have been, but they're coming back. And I think that ought to make for a pretty good district, that Monday Electra district out there.
Yeah, that our 2A districts are going to be interesting in football again, I think.
Makes it a little easier for you to cover, too. Get them all compacted into one.
Yeah, I mean.
Makes those district standings a little bit shorter to write up.
Another thing we'll have up today on the website and in the paper is the schedules get made out in a hurry.
Yeah.
With, there may be a hole here or there. But I already saw some interesting. Looked like Graham's playing Stephenville.
Graham's got Stephenville.
Iowa Park is not playing Hershey.
We knew
that
was
has been
kind
rare.
of coming, though. We had heard that those two teams weren't going to play each other. You remember, exactly the details behind it?
I talked to Youngs, and I can't remember. It was just hard for them to work it out. They each had teams they wanted to play certain weeks, and it's really, honestly, what catches my eye on this are not the games that are being played, but the games that aren't being played.
Yeah.
Because not only are we losing.
Archer's not playing Windthorst?
Archer's not playing Windthorst. For
Windthorst
the first time,
isn't playing a lot of teams that they
Windthorst isn't playing Archer. Windthorst and Archer C aren't playing for the first time since I think '93. I got that text today.
We'll have schedules.
First off, Ryder loses a couple of non-district recent rivalries that I've really enjoyed watching in Abilene Cooper and Amarillo High. We knew both of them were going to happen. Coach Bendel really didn't want to have an Amarillo school on the team. He didn't want to make another trip up there. But he ended up with one anyway because he was with Amarillo Paladuro. His scheduling, he went in with an idea, and it did not work at all. He wanted Azle week 1. Well, Azle thought they might be in district with Gainesville. They weren't, so they played Gainesville week 1. So instead, he slots in Mansfield Legacy. Just some different things happened where the only one that worked out for Ryder the way they thought it would was Lubbock Coronado. And that's week 2.
That's still a pretty good trip. One of those years,
and that's a decent trip out there. Week 3, that was supposed to be.
I'm going to really miss Amarillo High just because they were one of those teams that still used a fullback and pounded that ball.
But they do gain a team like
playing that.
They played Kennedale week 4, so they do gain a team that's going to run the wing T still. And so, and Kennedale's in it. That was one. They didn't think they were going to need 4 district or
Kennedale throws opponents. 5 passes a season or so.
There you go.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, honestly, I think they were averaging about 2 or 3 throws a game recently. And they've had some great backs. I don't know if that back was a senior this year or not, but they had that Washington kid a couple years ago, and they had a stud back who I think might have been a senior this year, but
even
they have
though
a 3,000-yard back.
They have
year.
athletes, even though that'll be a lower classification, so that's not a bad game to pick up. I will miss those two you talked about.
I do too. I will too. Old High, I think he likes his schedule the way it plays out, even though he lost Boswell. I mean, opening with Sweetwater, that's a classification down, but Sweetwater's been at the top
played
of
them
that
before. That's been an opener before.
Yeah, and
when Pride was there, I think.
Two very storied programs they're meeting too, and then
Mustang Bowl
in the year, isn't it? Is that the Green District?
Yeah, no, that'd be fourth.
You play 4, and then you'll have
play
a
4.
bye.
The bye's during the district.
Yeah.
Old High's bye is actually the last week of the season, so he's going to get the 2 weeks to prepare for whoever the playoff matchup is if they get in. But Haltom City, of course, is where Coach Hafley, AD, he coached that for several years. Asked Coach Russell, was like, did he have something to do with that? And he's like, no, but he was pretty happy that it happened.
Yeah.
So it's a good match. I think they've got both teams really put together some competitive non-district.
Hershey had a scramble for a game, too. All 3, I think, of our WFICs had a scramble because Hershey had Gainesville on the schedule week 1, and they ended up being in a district with them, which wasn't a surprise. We kind of thought Gainesville would probably keep with them, but they're playing a couple schools that we're really unfamiliar with. They're playing Dallas Life Oak, Dallas Life Oak Cliff or whatever, and then Waxahachie Life, which used to be Red Oak Life. 2 schools pretty far away from here that I don't think our team's ever played in football before.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything about them.
Yeah.
I'm lost.
No, after that though, they don't have IP, but they have Vernon and Graham on the schedule. Well, you'd think it'd be a little surprising, Graham, Hershey, they'd play each other, but I think that game could be more competitive these next 2 years. Hershey's got some young players coming up.
Yeah,
Graham's not going to be quite as strong as they have been.
Hershey's sophomore and freshman class are really strong, and you're going to get a lot of those guys up. We heard a lot about the Hershey JV last year, and they did. They went undefeated and ran through a lot of teams.
Yeah, with a primary freshman team.
Exactly, it's mostly freshmen, so they're real excited about what they've got coming up, and they like the 8th grade class that they're going to have for next year too. So, just saying, Hershey's on the way up to me.
Before we go, what's the couple of things y'all were most excited about today, I guess?
I like seeing Ryder and Old High staying with the Denton schools. I think there's something that's been established there. There's some rivalries that have been established there. This is the 7th consecutive realignment that WFISD has been paired with Denton ISD Class 5A schools. I like to see that tradition continue. I like rivalries. I like the traditional type of things.
And I like that for not just football. I think like in girls basketball and volleyball for Ryder and Old High, Denton is one of their biggest rivals. And I mean, I know like Boswell was good.
Yeah.
But Denton is the one that they hated and wanted to beat.
That's
right.
At
least sports hate. And Ryan will be competitive in those too.
And even in boys, I mean, the one thing I talked to some coaches from the other sports is they don't know what to expect out of 5-5A because the Dentons are such an unknown with Braswell coming in. They're not quite sure what the other 2 schools have lost in talent. So it's going to be a filling out process, I think, in some of these other sports, and even in football.
But I know when Geyer came in,
and
they didn't win immediately, but immediately they had athletes, and you could tell they were going to be a juggernaut.
There's a lot of athleticism out in Denton. Something good in the water.
It'll be interesting to see how long it takes Braswell to get
going,
competitive.
Because some of these programs have gotten good fast and gotten to
really
state finals within the first couple of years of their program.
This year, I mean, we had a couple, Frisco, and we had a couple schools that were
Brock just started football.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've seen teams just
get
Mansfield, down there immediately.
Mansfield they got down there. That was their, 4th, 5th
Yeah,
year
no, there's this year more than, because we didn't have the Elitos and South Lake's going to win.
Yeah, because Lake Ridge got past them.
Yeah. I mean, this year was like and maybe it's a 1-year thing, but this year was like the new school state title game.
Well, and I believe in the team that they lost to too, which for some reason I can't think of right now, but that was like a really new school.
Yeah, George
Ranch.
Yeah, that was
within
within 3 or 4 years. So
you're seeing that. Yeah, these new schools pop up in a hurry, and we've got 2 kind of in the area. Because, talk about Northwest Eaton, too, which is a playoff team, a potential first-round
like
playoff
Byron
team.
Nelson, when they came up, they didn't immediately win that big in football, but they were good at everything, and they went to soccer state immediately almost. And
so it's a different thing now. I mean, programs, especially when you go into, they're going to be drawing kids that are established.
The only thing you lack, like to me in football, but some of these have overcome it, is that they haven't necessarily if they were drawing from different schools, they haven't played together in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grades.
And football
so you don't
requires
have
more of a team.
you don't have that
chemistry.
continuity.
Yeah, you need more of a team chemistry, and you do. You got to learn a system. I mean,
And younger kids in football, because Braswell, I don't think will have seniors next year.
I don't believe it'll have seniors, but they're playing varsity schedules.
But a lot of times in basketball or baseball, you can have the stud sophomore pitcher, or the stud sophomore guard. In football, just body wise,
That's why you see a lot of these teams about their third or fourth year. They're really
because even if they've got a great group of sophomores, they're still going up against guys who've been in the weight room 2 years.
We should mention Ryder Old High, and you've tweeted it out and stuff, but their Old High's off obviously the last week of the year, so they can't play Ryder then anyway. It's going to be about the second district game of the year.
It'll be second district game again. It's that puts it kind of. It depends on when. I don't know if school's starting or if the season will start.
It'll be either the last week of September or first week of October.
It's the last week of
August.
And
when it starts. So it'll be the first week or last week of September.
And it may be coincidence, but the last 2 years there, we got two of the better games that the rivalry's ever had.
I see points both ways. I understand the tradition of it, of having it the last week. But at the same time, it still means something beyond just the rivalry when it's played the second week of the season or second week of the district season, because they're still battling for playoff positioning and whatnot. A lot of times you get the last week of the season,
somebody may be out. Sherman Denison run into that too, because that Battle of the Axe is usually the last week of the year.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know their schedule. I don't know if that's happening for them this year either. But yeah, they drew for buys, and
if the bye doesn't happen, are they playing last week? Or?
No, I don't think it was set up.
I think right now they like it more in the middle.
I know Coach Bindle wanted it to move back to the last week. He had a lot of people requesting it, but I think there's a lot of people that don't want it the last week because you don't have that time to give it the build up, of the rivalry, and maybe some of the nasty things that happened during the week of that rivalry, they don't happen as much whenever it's early in the middle of the season.
Couple disappointments, things that you're kind of bummed about seeing, I guess, for this realignment.
I think losing some of those rivalries you talk about. I mean, that's tough to see. Windthorst Archer City not playing is confounding. I can't even fathom how that doesn't happen. It's crazy to think of.
Yeah, it happens though.
But it's only for 2 years, and it could come back.
And those schools have always, Windthorst, Quanah, Seymour, Archer, they're always like within a few students either way, Division I, Division II. This year, Seymour went up, Archer went down. Next year, they all might be up there. Next year, they all might be down. It always seems like we're always, those schools could go either way.
Depends where the kids are moving.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just kind of a fact of life, but like one of my disappointments is just that you get a 7-team district.
Odd team district.
And then when you get the 5-team district with the 5-4A basketball or 6-4A basketball that didn't look like it had to be that way. So just tough scheduling for our area coaches, and but all in all, I think a lot of our teams felt good about today.
Yeah, I think today travel wise was a huge win for almost everybody. There's no one we're seeing that's like, oh wow, that's a brutal drive. It seems like every realignment, at least one school or a couple schools get like, oh my gosh.
We may have to retire the road trip graphic.
Yeah, the road trip.
Because it seemed like somebody was always going over 200 miles.
Yeah,
every week.
It seems like the road trip graphic's a little outdated now because, no big drives. I'm a little disappointed. I figured Cisco Eastland wouldn't come back. I thought it was kind of fluky there here to begin with. I really thought like Stanford, Anson, Hawley. I thought a couple of those other teams might be around. I really like those district races where you have 4 or 5 you feel like pretty solid teams in district, and I was a little disappointed to see that.
And from our standpoint, it's not a disappointment. I think it's a good thing. I like that a state power like Argyle is in our district.
I'm not having to coach against them.
We viewed a lot different than coaches.
Same thing with Denton Geyer when they were good and Denton Ryan before.
We like
you
seeing
get to see those marquee names, and then if your teams can battle with them, they're good enough to play with anybody. I mean, when I remember when Ryder went down there that year and was undermanned and running their single wing, and they ran for about 300 yards on Denton Ryan. Well, that kind of told them there, we didn't beat them, but we're as good as anybody else in this region. They went all the way to the regional final. Mm-hmm. And so I think you get that measuring stick that you really have to build up. You've got to, you're not going to fluke your way into anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I'm just ready for the next season. But of course, we got to get through this one first.
Yeah, we got a lot of basketball. Spring sports are starting out, but we'll be talking some football here, before we know it. So.
Yeah. It hits in a hurry.
Thanks for joining us. It's been a lot of fun.